Well, gang, it is week 10, our second week on broadcast news, and it is the week before you start spring break. So let's finish strong this week. Got a lot of things to get done, and then you get a much deserved rest next week. So let's finish strong. This week, again, we are on our second week of broadcast news. We'll be focusing this week on radio news, on writing for radio. I don't know how much you watch, or how much you listen to the radio, how much you listen to the news on radio. Usually you get it at the top of the hour and the bottom of the hour, unless you listen to NPR or you listen to sports talk or some sort of talk radio that talks politics, things like that. Me personally, I like listening to the news on the radio. I think you get a lot more balance. I think you get a little more commentary with it, especially if you have a couple of announcers and they can discuss back and forth. I really like talk radio. Because versus television, where oftentimes it's just one side and they're just shouting down the other. Talk radio a little bit more, you seem to get more give and take, and they'll discuss topics, and yeah, they'll get excited about things, but you get the call-ins sometimes, and so I think you get a little bit more depth. So for me personally, I like the radio news, especially the talk radio format. One of the other things we'll talk about this week is convergence. Convergence is where all of the different types of storytelling can come into play. And that's one of the reasons we teach this class, is because we want you to have as many tools as you can in your tool belt. You may want to be a writer. You may want to just write for a newspaper or write for a magazine, and that's okay. But because of convergence, because of the internet, you are going to need to have more tools. You may write for a newspaper, but your editor wants you to do stand-ups or do a podcast or do something like that to add to the storytelling element. You may be a sportscaster, and they want you tweeting trivia questions or asking for questions from your audience as a way to get them to engage, as a way to get them to interact. And so that's what we teach in this class, is how to write in the different formats and how to pull it all together. So we're going to talk about that a little bit this week. One way it makes the profession much more difficult, because you have to learn so many different skills. But in another way, you get to have more opportunities to tell your story. And if you're in this major, you want to be a storyteller. Even if you want to be just on the technical side of things, you want to be a storyteller. So getting some of these writing skills, learning to write in different formats, is going to really benefit you in the end. Okay? My point is, build as many of the writing skills as you can. You never know when they're going to come into play for you. You're going to have to write, and no matter what you get into, and just help build that tool set, because the more skills you have, the more variety you have, the more employable you're going to be. Okay? This week, your discussion board post deals with convergence, so take a look at that. This Sunday, March 20th, your Learning to a Greater Degree feature is due, your broadcast news piece is due, and your second blog post is due. Now, I know that seems like a lot heading into spring break, but keep a couple things in mind. Number one, that Learning to a Greater Degree feature has been assigned for 3 weeks, so you should have been working on that instead of waiting until the last minute. The broadcast news piece is really not a big assignment, not a large assignment. Remember, I said if you only get a week, it means it's a shorter one. That doesn't mean blow it off, doesn't mean give me a half-hearted effort, but it does mean that it shouldn't take you as long to do. And then as far as your blog post, that's where you have the free reign. So you get to write about whatever it is you want, whatever you enjoy about. Just make sure you stick with your mission and you keep the audience that you've noted in your blog launch, keep them in mind. I don't mean go haphazard into writing it. You still need to apply the writing rules we've talked about, the grammar, the improving style, those types of things. So make sure you're still applying those. But this is your free time to write about something you really enjoy. Okay? We're also going to be hitting grammar rules 14 through 16 this week, so make sure you are really digging into the video, you're paying attention to those things, and then you apply them. Guys, these rules that we're talking about are meant to make your writing better. So think about them. Have the list beside you if you need to. Go back and copy edit your work before you submit it. We got done doing the profile features, and I know we've been going through those lessons, and that was the first assignment you had after it. Way too many errors in there of rules that we've covered as a group. So be sure you're applying those rules. That's why we did that. Okay? Got any questions? Give me a holler. And I won't talk to you next week because it'll be spring break, but I'll talk to you the week after. See you soon. All right, your 3 grammar rules for this week are dealing with the lack of agreement between the pronoun and the antecedent, biased language, and lack of agreement between subject and verb. So let's dig right in. Rule 13, lack of agreement between pronoun and antecedent. Pronouns must agree in number, either singular or plural, and person, first, second, or third, with their antecedents. And the antecedent is the noun or pronouns to which your pronoun refers. So in example 1, the class must check its or their work. Well, there is only one class, so that would mean the class must check its work. This is one of my pet peeves. There is only one class, so make sure the pronoun matches in case. Example number 2, class members must check its or their work. There are multiple members of the class, so in this case, it would be their. Class members must check their work. Stop, go back, and think about what the number is for your noun, and that's going to help you know what the pronoun is. Rule 14 deals with biased language. I don't care what your opinions are on political correctness. And the bottom line is, when we write, we need to avoid biased language. Avoid the stereotypes. Take special care to avoid gender-specific pronouns, and don't make the mistake of using the plural pronoun their as an easy fix. Then you violated the rule about nouns and pronouns matching in case. So an incorrect example would be, do not say, a reporter must always check his work. Because remember, females may be reporters too. You don't want to say a reporter must always check their work, because reporter is singular and there is plural. So there's two ways to fix this. Number 1, a reporter must always check his or her work. Now you've taken care of the biased language because you've referred to the fact that reporters may be male or female. You've also dealt with the lack of agreement between the pronoun and antecedent because you said a reporter and his or her work. This does get cumbersome, so an easier fix is just to make the noun plural. Reporters must always check their work. And rule number 15, lack of agreement between subject and verb. Subject and verb must agree in number. Use the form of the verb that agrees with a singular or plural subject, and pay special care when the subject and verb are separated by one or more words. So for example, the bag with the green stripes belongs to her. Oftentimes we want to say belong to her because of the green stripes. But remember, the noun in this sentence is the bag. The green stripes is just an adjective explaining which bag. Okay, so a tip. If a word or words comes between the subject and the verb, remove those words, and that's going to help you know how to make agreement between the subject and verb. A compound subject with parts joined by and is always plural, and thus should take a plural verb. When parts of the compound subject are joined by or, the verb should agree with the part of the compound closest to the verb. So in example 1, a mystery writer and her daughter live in the house by the river. So you have a mystery writer and you have her daughter, that's plural, therefore the verb would be live. In example 2, Mike or his sisters have the spare key. So there you have rules 13, 14, and 15. Make sure you're applying those, make sure you're getting them into your writing, and become a much better writer.